With the 2025 fantasy baseball season rapidly approaching, today Matt and I are breaking down 10 starting pitchers that we cannot leave our drafts without, and we're making sure you won't either on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source of fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominick Martino. You can find me on Twitter at DomMartinoFB. Here, as always, with my brother, my co-host, my partner in crime, Matthew Ane, and you can find him on Twitter at Matthew_Ane. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't already, hit that little bell below. It will subscribe you to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. Or if you're listening on the audio end on a platform like Apple or Spotify that allows 5-star ratings and reviews, we would truly appreciate it if you could do that for us. And lastly, but most importantly, to Matt and I and you guys this time of year, please give us a chance on the Subtext platform. Through Subtext, it's an in-depth, personalized experience through text messaging alerts going right to your phone, offering so much more than we can in this 30-minute podcast. And if you are interested in joining us on Subtext, you could find the link in the bio wherever you're listening, watching, and it's available on any of our social media platforms. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. All right, Matt, we're on to starting pitchers today. And, draft season right around the corner. And we have, once again, 10 awesome names that you're not going to want to leave your draft without, because if you do, you know what? You're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble. But, Matt, why don't you take the lead here and break down one of your 5 names?
Yep. And I want to preface this too. Like, this isn't an episode of like sleepers, right? Like, we aren't saying you got to walk away with these sleepers, etc. This is guys that just like, it doesn't matter whether they're being drafted in the first round or the 50th round, right? It's just guys that we're targeting throughout the draft that like we feel like if you walk away with like maybe like, some of these guys you might only be able to walk away with one, but at least if you walk away with 1 to 2 to 3 of these guys, like we feel that your rotation is going to be great and a great starting point for the 2025 season. Some guys is just not going to be physically possible, but we're going to go into it, right? So like my first guy, and this is by no means of ranking either. Like you want that, like join the subtext and ask me the question. I'll tell you who we're prioritizing. But anyway, we're talking about Michael King from San Diego Padres. My guy got traded last year from the Yanks to the Padres and came out like a bat out of hell and had a pretty incredible season. The 29-year-old pitched 173 innings, 201 strikeouts, an ERA of 2.95, and a WHIP of 1.19. Absolutely stellar season. Couldn't ask for more, except for maybe next year to just repeat it. Really, that's about it. His xERA was sitting at 3.59, which isn't too far off the course. Maybe about a half run more. X batting average is at 2.26. Didn't give up a lot of hard contact because the average exit velocity was sitting at 85.7 miles per hour. So even though he's protected by the San Diego Park, it didn't matter where he pitched. He wasn't giving up the hard contact to then put him in the danger zone of giving up home runs and things like that. You got guys to chase at a pretty good rip at 30%, was creating a whiff at about 29.3% of the time, and was getting the strikeout about 27.7% of the time. Didn't allow guys to barrel. And like I said, I was talking about the average exit velocity. The hard contact was even lower. So the percentage of the amount of time he actually allowed hard contact was about 30.3% of the time. That's super elite. Just pointed out there, like a good pitcher is probably about like 43 to 53% of the time. So, just to put on how elite Michael King had a good season in terms of, reducing the hard contact was really great. Really made his real living off of, the sinker. He threw that about 27% of the time, threw that about 92 miles an hour, and put the guys away with that about 24% of the time. And the changeup. Those were his 2 like big pitches. Leaned on his fastball as well, about 25% of the time as well. But then was able to mix it up with a sweeper and a slider. He just has a great pitch mix. Everything really just went well for him this year. I see positive regression coming. I see, the fact that he can handle the workload. That tells me, hey, you're going to have an even better season in year 2 with the confidence, second year with the team, second year with that pitching mentality, and they do pump out good pitchers there. I think that King is in for a special season. And just for a little inside baseball, too, of where I have King sitting at pitcher 25, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a pretty good ranking for a guy that's really had one elite season.
Well, man, I'll actually tell you this. You're actually low on King compared to ADP. ADP has King as SP 16, pick 59. And it's funny that we were talking about who we were going to take as our pitchers, and you mentioned King, and I was like, damn, he's just been somebody who's been flying up my rankings as well recently. I got King all the way up to SP 14. And here's one of the big reasons why for me. Matt, you did a great job of breaking down his pitches and all the deep stats. One thing I'm gonna add on here with my I think one of the big spots that we might see some positive regression is with his fastball velocity. Last year, his fastball was down about a mile per hour, right? So if he's able to get back maybe even half a mile per hour on that fastball, because in 2023, Michael King's fastball was getting hit at about a 200 average. In 2024, it went all the way up to 265. So if we get some positive regression on that fastball, Michael King could work himself into SP1 territory. So I see the hype. I get it. It is a big price for a guy, like you said, Matt, who has only one season as a starter. But you know what? He's bigs, going all the way back to 2021. So I think, with the 170 innings, there's no reason to say, hey, listen, if he's fully healthy, why couldn't he get up to, 190-ish, around that range? And then you're talking about maybe 220 strikeouts. The ERA, I think, stays low threes, high twos. And the whip is another area. We could just see more positive regression in the whip as well. So, Matt, like you said, I'm not going to spend much more time here because we both love Michael King, and I think it's going to be a big year 2 in San Diego for Michael King. So make sure he is on your must draft list. Let's move on to somebody that I'm really digging on this upcoming season for 2025. It's Spencer Schwellenbach. And you know what? He proved, Mr. Spencer Strider isn't the only Spencer in town in Atlanta, because Schwellenbach came in this season and at 24 years old, his first season in the bigs, he really showed out. He had 21 starts, a 3.35 ERA, 123 innings pitched, 127 strikeouts, and a 104 whip. And for a kid, first taste of the bigs, 21 starts to have success like that just speaks volumes onto, the pedigree already. He's already showing, hey, I've already got the skills to come up here and, pitch with, against these major leaguers and make them look somewhat silly. All of the underlying stuff looks great, gets a lot of bases, gets a lot of whiffs, doesn't walk too many guys. Would like to see the ground ball, percentage get a little bit higher up there. But you know what? He's around average. So it's not like he's horrible at getting the ground balls anyway. All stuff easily improvable. You know what? The fastball is great, sits at about 96. The cutter is what needs a little bit of work. Gets hit about at a 270 clip, but everything else is really good. I would love to see him working that split finger a little bit more. Had really good success with that one. Got hit at a 147 clip. Threw it about 12% of the time. If he threw that a little bit more, maybe the cutter a little bit less, I think you could see you really see a world where Spencer Schwellenbach just has the talent to honestly as high at SP2, I think is where the high upside is. I have him at SP27 right now, Schwellenbach. Current ADP on him is SP31, pick 102. So I definitely think there is room on that one to make a little bit of money. I really think Schwellenbach's a high-end SP3 with high-end SP2 upside. Honestly, I'm hoping to walk away with a lot of Spencer Schwellenbach this year. And he also finished the season very, very strong. His last, I think it was like 10 starts, became like a strikeout machine, looked really great. Just loved everything I've seen from the kid.
Yeah, so like Schwellenbach, you spoke about his arsenal, all that. We've all spoken about it. The price is right. I don't think I'm ready to commit to like drafting him as an SP2. I don't think it's there, but I think a 3 is a fair price. Coming off the board at what did we say here? Pitcher 33, I think is the right price. I don't think you're overpaying. I would also around that time too. There's guys that you have to consider. Like I think Bailey Ober should fall, and I would take him over Bailey Ober, but I'm not taking him over like a Bryce Miller and a Jacob deGrom. It's a fair ranking. It's weird this year with just like how everybody's coming off the board. But Schwellenbach is definitely a great fantasy option. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about a guy that's been injured for all of the 2024 season that I think is going to have a resurgence and probably come at a value in a guy I'm drafting everywhere. You're going to have to wait and find out right after this.
And all right, folks, I need to talk to you about my friends over at Rocket. Rocket Money Money helps you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice. That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It puts everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even goals you want to set for this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year using the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel subscription services I wasn't using anymore and have already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com /lockedon. And one final time, that's rocketmoney.com /lockedon.
Introducing the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, Diamond Club on Subtext, your ultimate fantasy baseball companion. Look, you want to win your leagues just as much as I do, and there's only one way to do it. Become a member of the Diamond Club. You're going to get our rankings, you're going to get our, sleepers, breakout, busts, values, all that stuff. Plus, you'll be able to ask us questions and so much more. So, like, if you're sitting there with, things that we're not giving you on this 30-minute podcast, but you think we're a great source, which you should, you're going to want to get a little bit more deeper insight. So the price is minimal, and I promise you're going to get way more out of it than what we're giving to you, than what we're getting out of it. So we love it. You should check it out. Get a free 2 weeks. Links in the description below. But all right, let's get back into it. Let's talk about my boy, Brandon Woodruff of the Milwaukee Brewers. And quite honestly, I'm very upset that he didn't pitch in 2024. But you know what? That shoulder injury really just isn't great. He had surgery on it in October 2023 to repair the anterior capsule, which, hey, that sucks. But it looks like he's going to come back to glory. Should be fine. Everything's saying he's going to be ready for opening day, which is awesome. We've seen where like this could possibly come at where he could be a bust. We've seen other pitchers come back from the shoulder injury, and it's not the greatest, but he's coming off the board at a reasonable price. It looks like he's coming off the board at let's see here.
SP69, pick
Thank you.
21.
Yeah. So that's a steal and a half. I don't think that price is going to be there come draft day. I have him ranked in my 40s right now. I want to move him up higher. I just want to see a little bit of the pitching, and I could get real excited. Look, if you don't remember who Brandon Woodruff is, let me just remind you of his career. Last time he pitched a full season in 2022, he pitched 153 innings, 190 strikeouts, an ERA of 3.05, and a WHIP of 107. Even right before he got hurt with his 11 starts through 67 innings, sub 3 ERA at 2.28, and just is an absolute pitcher stud. Like, there's nobody else that you would say, hey, shouldn't belong in the top 5 when healthy. And that's Brandon Woodruff. I'm very excited for him being back, and I'm going to be drafting him literally everywhere once I get to see some pitching. So keep him right here. He's going to be somebody you're going to be drafting as your pitcher for this year, and he's going to be the key to winning your fantasy championships.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you when it comes to Brandon Woodruff. And it's funny. I want to give the comparison of Shane McClanahan, right? Kind of similar situation with Woodruff and McClanahan, right? I'm guilty of this too, and all of us, anyone who's been drafting early is guilty of this. McClanahan's coming off the board, early ADP, SP37, pick 120. That's 100 pick, 20 starter difference between McClanahan and Woodruff. And I don't think the talent is that far off. I'm guilty of it myself. I have McClanahan ranked, at 15, and I have Woodruff at 38. I think there's a split the difference, right? I think McClanahan, in my rankings, my personal rankings, I think I got to move him down a smidge. Woodruff has to come up a smidge, and they kind of even the difference. If they're both ready to go opening day and they look sharp in spring training, they're both top 10 pitchers, top 15 at worst, in my opinion. So Brandon Woodruff, Matt, you did a great job breaking him down. Definitely a must draft. Let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about somebody I'm super, super excited about. It's Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan, the ERA was a little bit higher last year. He had a couple of blow-up starts, but overall, still a strong season from a kid who's super young, 28 years old last year for Joe Ryan, 3.60 ERA. Of course, he plays with those Minnesota Twins. 23 starts, 135 innings, 147 strikeouts, and an 0.98 WHIP. And Joe Ryan is settling in as a major leaguer and finding his way. He's always been like a control specialist. He did it throughout his whole minor league career. And I truly think he's somebody that has another step. I think there's going to be a season, and hopefully it's 2025, because I'm going to have a lot of Joe Ryan, where it's a low 2s to high 3s ERA. He, gets rid of that home run issue, which he actually, was a little bit better last year. Wasn't that much better, but was a little bit better last year. Those strikeouts, you saw the big strikeout number in 2023, where it was 161 innings, 197 strikeouts for Joe Ryan. I think there's a world where everything comes together and he has top, 20-ish, maybe even a little bit higher than that starting pitcher upside. I actually have Joe Ryan. I think I'm inside my top 20. I have Joe Ryan at SP 19. I think he's a very, very you're getting him in the SP3 range, if I remember correctly. Yeah, pitcher 35 off the board's ridiculous for Joe Ryan. I love him as an SP3. I have him ranked higher than that because I think he's going to be better than that. So I will take him as a high-end SP3, above where he's even going right now. But I do have him ranked so high just because I think the upside comes together this year, and I think we see every part of it click with the ERA, the strikeouts, and the WHIP, and it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, I mean Joe Ryan, I'm really hoping can pan out. We pretty much wait and see. You broke him down really well. I'm drafting him at a decent rip as well. I think I have him ranked at, let's see real quick. If it wants to actually cooperate, because there's 11 team, and 11 team is the word. You have him pitched at 33, and it's a fair price. So I'm right there around ADP. I'm not mad at it. He has all the upside in the world, like you said. But I'm going to move on. Let's talk about Bryce Miller of the Seattle Mariners. The kid had a great season last year. Let's just put it this way. Really mad I, pretty much whiffed on him. I kind of let him go in a lot of leagues just because, wasn't sure what the talent would bring. He showed a lot of it and then took a really brilliant step forward, and I'm really impressed. Finished with a sub-3 ERA of 2.94. Had a pitched about 180 innings, had 171 strikeouts, and, had a sub-1 WHIP. Like, what could you ask more? Have more strikeouts, essentially? Like, okay, I think it might come. We're gonna delve into, the underlying stats that could probably support this, right? So, his xERA was sitting at 3.72, which he will outperform, which there will be some negative regression. But even if the kid finishes with a 3.5 ERA with the rest of the peripheral results, which I think is definitely maintainable, I think that he's going to still be a value and be what his draft price is essentially. Is not a guy that is going to suppress power or anything of that sort, but he can get guys in a sticky position where he has, where he's tricky. And I think that he's just going to be the guy that just going to be good. It's never going to be too pretty on the underlying stats like for Emil Valdez that just somehow performs, but just makes things happen week in and week out. So Bryce Miller is somebody I just drafting because I believe in the talent and the results on the store stat sheet versus the underlying stats.
Yeah, I'm kind of floating the other way on Bryce Miller. He's just I feel like there's that one of those guys every year that the industry is just super high on, and I'm just not that I don't think he's a talented pitcher, but Matt, you kind of broke it down. I kind of see Bryce Miller as being more of like a mid-3s ERA kind of guy, well under that K per 9, because I know you were kind of getting into the underlying stats, but he doesn't get a lot of chases at all, doesn't really get many whiffs, lets up a lot of barrels and hard hits, doesn't get a lot of ground balls. He's lucky he's in Seattle, to be honest, because Seattle's one of the best pitcher parks in the league. So if he wasn't in Seattle and just put him in like an average MLB park, I think that ERA would definitely be more inflated. The industry's high. Everyone's high on him. He's coming off the board as SP21, pick 73 overall. I have Bryce Miller down at SP37, so I'm over 15 spots under on him. I just think there's so many good starting pitchers this year. And once again, I think Bryce Miller is very, very good. But when I see Luis Castillo going right after him, Max Fried, Logan Webb, Tanner Bybee, Freddie Peralta, Tyler Glasnow even, I just can't do it. All those names are above Bryce Miller for me. Once again, not about the talent on Bryce Miller, just more of just there's so many good names out there. But with that being said, folks, we have a bunch more great names like Hunter Greene. What are we doing with the two Shanes, Shane McClanahan and Shane Baz? Make sure you stay locked on for those names and more coming up next.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. With Game Time Picks, curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, and more. Game Time has plenty of great features such as their all-in-one pricing. So pretty much when you're, toggling through all the pricing of the tickets, there's no surprise fees at checkouts. Views from your seats, you get a panoramic view. So making sure you're not sitting behind that pole. And lowest price guaranteed, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use the code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms again apply. Create an account, use the code LOCKEDON MLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time.
And all right, let's jump back in here, right, Matt? Where did we leave off? We were doing some Bryce Miller talk. Let's talk about somebody that I love. Let's get back into one of my guys. Let's talk about Hunter Greene. Hunter Greene, somebody who took a huge step forward last year, was the number one overall pitching prospect in all of baseball at one point. He was 24 years old last year, got his first All-Star nod. Once again, Hunter Greene, Cincinnati Reds, who we're talking about here. He made 26 starts last year, had a 2.75 ERA, pitched 150 innings, had 169 strikeouts, and had a 1.01 WHIP. And I mean, there's not really much else you could ask for from the young Hunter Greene. And another starting pitcher who, once again, going after Bryce Miller. SP24 off the board for Hunter Greene, pick 83. I have Hunter Greene all the way up as my SP15, right behind Michael King, who we were talking about earlier. This is what I predict for Hunter Greene this year. I think there's no way that he doesn't give up or gives up as few home runs as he did last year, playing in Great American Small Park. Not a great ground ball pitcher. So I think he's going to be a guy that we see that ERA elevate. But I think we're going to see the strikeout total. He's just somebody, the stuff is so elite in like every category that, he could be a guy that, gives Spencer Strider-esque strikeout total this year with the ERA rising a little bit. But the control's taken a step forward too, and I love that for Hunter Greene. Only 57 walks last year in 150 innings. You love to see that. He suppressed the hits as well, and that was part of the reason why the ERA was so low. If he can miss bats at an elite rate like he does, and the command stays as strong as it was last year, he could outpitch his FIP. There's definitely a world where that happens. I'm not expecting it. I still think that low threes, to mid threes ERA is there, but I think the control, another step forward, strikeouts, another step forward, and he's going to be 25. A kid that throws 100 miles an hour easily, 25 years old, is starting to figure baseball out. Love him.
Yeah, no, I love the kid too. I just want to see what he does for his second year. I want to see if he tries to ramp up that fastball and see if it's actually going to be controllable or he needs to stay where he's been this year. That's going to be the biggest test for him. I think that he's going to be a phenomenal pitcher. We'll see it all in spring training. I think that's where we'll see the experiment. But other than that, I mean, he's just incredible overall. He's going to blow people away. He's almost like a Matt Harvey where, he's just a fastball so good you can't really hit the ball. So it is what it is with Hunter Greene. He's going to have a great career. But I'm going to move on. Sorry about another injury guy. I guess call me Injury Sam over here. Shane McClanahan is my next guy here, the Tampa Bay Rays. But my guy is coming off the IL, coming off TJ, and expected to start, be ready for opening day and be ready for the start of spring training. And that's big. You're going to expect, obviously, the control to be away. The whip is probably going to be high this year. But Shane McClanahan took steps. He took big steps to be an elite fantasy arm. And everything screams about this kid that he's just going to be the next big thing in baseball. Look, in 2021, he came out. He looked absolutely awesome. through his 123 innings. Had 141 strikeouts with a 3.43 ERA. His full season, first full season in 2022, 166 innings, 194 strikeouts, and a 2.54 ERA. And the fifth was backing it up at 3. Then you look at 2023 right before he went down. ERA was 3.29 through 115 innings pitched and 121 strikeouts. There's nothing that tells me he can't come back and be awesome. We're just going to see high whips for probably the first month, and I'm not going to be even concerned about it. Even if he finishes with a stat line of 2021 with over 170 innings, where it just, you extrapolate the pace to 170 innings, he's an elite pitcher for you. He's going to be just fine. And I expect something along the lines of that. Him going at pitcher 48, which I don't think is going to be true for much longer. I think he's going to probably be drafted at, top 20 pitcher come draft day. There's still somebody I'm probably going to trust as my SP2 if I had to come down to it. Kid is an elite talent. We're going to see him come in spring training, and it's going to make the difference. This kid is going to be absolutely incredible. Don't even sweat the TJ.
Matt, you hit the nail on the head. I think the key is to see him in spring training. Just got to see him out there throwing, the ball, striking guys out, giving you at least, I would love to see a 5-inning start for him before the end of spring training. Might not be likely, given the circumstances, like you said, coming back from TJ. But with McClanahan, the talent's there. Like you said, I got him at SP16. I think that's coming down. I'm kind of sitting here looking at my, my rankings where he's going in ADP. I'm kind of adjust. I want to get him to like more of like that SP2 range, like you said, man. I think that SP2 range is a real sweet spot. It's just like lower end SP2, is going to be that sweet spot for McClanahan. And you broke him down well, so I'm not even going to really add too much with you. But draft with confidence. So as long as he looks good in spring training, if you draft him before spring training, I would talk to your commissioner and find out why that's happening. But let's move on to this next guy. Let's talk about let's do another Shane. Let's do Shane Baz. And I feel like we've actually been mentioning Shane Baz here and there, but he's due for a good breakdown, right? Another guy that has the injury tag on him has had a very hard time staying healthy, including last year. Only 14 starts for Baz. They were really good. 14 starts. Damn, what about Boston? A 3.06 ERA for Baz last year, of course, with those Tampa Bay Rays. 79 innings, 69 strikeouts, and a 1.05 whip. You love to see it. At least he was out there, gave you something. I'm just waiting for it, man. I once again, I think it could be this year. This is the year. This is the part of the year we're all very optimistic, and we have the rose-colored glasses on. And we're like, if this guy only does this, if this guy only does that, but Baz really has the talent, man. If he could just stay on the diamond, for 25 to 30 starts, I really think we could see him. He can get well over a K per 9. He's done it in the minors. If you look back at 2021, last season in the minors where he threw up a decent amount of starts, it was 17 starts, a 2.06 ERA, 78 innings, 113 strikeouts, and an 0.8 whip. He's always had elite command control. Shows to the whip being so good this year at a 105 clip. I think it's just an injury thing. I think it's just an injury thing of why the ADP is so low. I think it was in the 50s, right, Matt? Last time I was looking at. Mm-hmm. 51 for Baz, pick 158. I have Baz all the way up at SP34. Love him in that, SP3, 4 kind of range. And once again, another guy, as long as he's out there and he looks good in spring training, I think he's going to be really, really good for fantasy baseball purposes in 2025.
Yeah, I love me some Shane Baz. I think that, he's just one of those the guys that just, I think, is going to be, have the hype and probably not have the draft price we'd all like, but at the same time, he's kind of going at I would say a sort of a discount, right? Like, I mean, Baz is going off the board at pitcher 46. I think that's the right price, and he's going. You're pretty much going to have to choose between him and McClanahan. But then the rest in that round, I mean, the only guy I'd probably touch is probably Ronel Blanco going in terms of that. Other than that, like you have a pretty much like a list of guys that probably don't have much of a sure thing. So when it comes to Shane Baz, I feel like he's right after McClanahan in that round. That's the only other guy I'm pretty much looking at. So if I'm drafted today, I'm snagging Baz all around. I'm going to do an honorable mention of Brian Wu, the pitcher from Seattle Mariners. Dude had a good year, even though he couldn't stay on the field himself. I think that we're going to see exactly what he did last year. He's going to be absolutely incredible. Not much time to really mention anything else. Hit me up and I'll give you a little bit more insight. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share this podcast. And also, too, I want to throw this out there. You're only as good as the information that's shared. And if you're going up against the same guys with the same information, then you're beating them, then you're good at this. So other than that, if you're just hiding our podcast because we give you an edge, then you're not that good then. Time to see what you're made of. Share this podcast and, don't fear competition. But guys, on top of that, when you're done sharing our podcast with your friends, you're going to check out our boy Sully over at Locked On MLB, who covers gives great coverage of the MLB as a whole. But guys, with that being said, guys, peace out.
See ya.